So it's really interesting. Millennials are a very tired, burnt out, personally responsible group of people.
Wow.
And for me, that makes sense because I identify with that.
Yeah,
I definitely see the interconnectedness of all of our daily choices on the greater environment.
Yeah.
And I was like, why not try to reach this group of people? So
I love that.
Coming to you straight from Fremont, California, this is the Fremont Podcast, dedicated to telling the stories of the past and present of the people and places of the city of Fremont, one conversation at a time.
Hello, Fremont. This is Sue. We're outside Mission Coffee, and you're listening to episode 55 of the Fremont Podcast.
Now, here's your host, Ricky B.
So I'm back here in Devout, in the basement again. I have an office, actually trying to build out a studio in the basement at Devout, but I hang out here all the time. So these first few episodes of 2023 Season 2, I have tried to talk with people who provide help and resources and ideas, encouragement toward making changes, profitable changes in our lives. So if you haven't listened to the most recent episodes, episode 53 and 54, then go back and listen to those. You can keep listening now, but go back after this and listen to them again, because they provide some great helps from people who live right here in our community, people who have built businesses and organizations around their passions and have been educated in different areas, and they are here to help the community. And along those same lines, I have with me someone else who is in our community, from our community, and she is making difference in people's lives, both here and in other greater parts of the Bay Area as well. So Karen, it's good to have you here today.
thank you so much for having me. I am excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. So this is not the first conversation that you and I have had.
Oh, far from it.
So first of all, how long have you lived in Fremont?
Raised all of it. Yes.
Okay.
Foundational years, Ardenwood, Warwick for elementary. I even went to Prince of Peace for middle
Wow,
school. So
wow.
I feel like Fremont is very much part of my DNA.
Okay, that's awesome. And where did you and I first meet?
Oh my goodness. So I will never forget.
I actually love this story because the way this whole thing played out and the way that you and I reconnected, I love it. So you tell it.
So it was 2018, and one of my friends had invited me to try out backpacking. She had just tried it. She loved it. And I was like, okay, I've always wanted to be more outdoorsy. If I go with someone who knows the ropes, this is a perfect opportunity. But as I read more and more about it, I got more and more nervous. I didn't grow up outdoorsy, and I was like, do I really want to go into the wilderness with nothing but the stuff on my back to help me survive? Did I sign up for the right thing? So
Who does this?
Right.
Yeah.
And apparently a lot of people, because what I was reading online was very interesting. But then I was like, I think I need a little bit more guidance. And then I came across all of REI Fremont's backpacking classes. And I was like, let me sign up for every single one.
Yeah.
So I remember going to those classes probably over the span of 2 or 3 months.
Wow.
And you led every single class that I had gone to.
Wow.
And I really just internalized everything you were teaching us. Your teaching style was you made everything seem so doable,
Awesome.
feasible, not intimidating at all. And I was like, wait, I feel like I can do this. I just have to be prepared, think with my head, and I'll be okay. And I remember sitting in the back of class because I am forever the shyest person, and I didn't want to draw attention or ask questions. But that is technically where we first
That's
met.
awesome.
But
That's awesome. And then I remember, I don't know how long, it was during COVID, but I remember getting a message from you, I think through Instagram or something like that. Mm-hmm. And you were like, I don't know if you know me or remember me, but I was in your class at REI, and you inspired me to go out and go backpacking. Now you're a backpacker, aren't you?
Oh my gosh, I feel like such a confident outdoors person now.
Awesome.
I have gotten a few of my friends on board, or if anyone ever feels like, oh, I want to do this, but I don't feel like I can. I'm just like, let's challenge that. Let's make it happen, because it happened for me where it was always a dream out of reach. But I worked on it. I learned from
That's
you.
awesome. That's awesome. Well, it's interesting. We were just talking about teaching, the reward that comes with teaching, right? Because you're a teacher.
I am. I'm a lecturer at Cal.
At Cal Berkeley?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But we were just talking about the reward that comes with being a teacher. Sometimes you put a lot of effort, you go out of your way to do things, and you wonder if, what you're saying or what you're doing actually lands anywhere profitable, right?
Yes.
And I think that, although, teaching backpacking, I think that backpacking and being outdoors is like a really profitable thing for anybody. So I would highly recommend it. But, sometimes you teach those classes and you're just kind of wondering if anything's really like going to make a difference in somebody's life. And then I get a message from you on Instagram saying, you know what, you taught these classes and it really started me down a journey that I've been on, and I just wanted to let you know. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. That was like one of those moments where I just felt like the reward was just fantastic. So
I remember the moment because I sent that message after I had visited Mammoth Lakes for the first time, summer 2021.
Wow.
And we were doing the June Lake Loop, and there's a point where you're at the top and you're just looking over the lakes and the mountains, and everything is just like so expansive. And I just had like this immense feeling of gratitude. And I was like, Ricky was one of those people who gave me like the tools and the resources and the confidence I needed. And I was like, he probably doesn't even know, but it felt really important for me in that moment to share my gratitude and let you know that you had made such a huge difference in my life, my joy and contentment and my pursuit of that I had to tell you.
Wow. Thank you for doing that. That was so great. I've had a few moments from teaching at REI, teaching the classes there that I've had that have just been extremely rewarding like that. But that's right there at the top of my list. So I just really, I'm grateful that you not only had the experience, but I'm glad that you recognized the opportunity to reach back out and share that with me. I just really appreciate that.
Oh, yay. And such a great opportunity for connection, because you were definitely like this role model in my head, like this really cool figure. Like, I can't be friends with Ricky. He's way too cool. And it's like, I reached out and we've had so many.
We've had coffee since then a few times, and then we've been able to reconnect, and obviously we're connected on social media and all of that. But now I'm the privileged one because I get to have you on the podcast, and I've been inspired by what you do. And I don't know where you were in your journey of becoming who you are now, as far as like your teaching, your coaching and all that stuff. But I don't know where you were back then when you were taking my classes, but I think that being able to see what you're doing now and be connected with you and to have you on the podcast to share it is just a huge privilege. So I'm glad that you're here.
Oh my gosh, the privilege is all mine.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So you said you teach at Cal Berkeley, right? And is that all you do, or do you have other things that you, as far as like your profession or whatever?
Yeah, so I teach at Cal Berkeley. I teach the nutrition education and counseling course. Okay. So it's only in the spring semester, so I'm like a part-time teacher, which works for me right now because I do practice as a dietitian in a few different settings, and also I do a little bit of private practice on the side as well because I really do love that one-on-one connection you get with people, and just like being there for their journey, seeing their long-run progress, and just helping people understand what's important to them, what makes sense for them, and recognizing that health and wellness is not a one-size-fits-all approach, and just kind of being there to help people on with that and coach them through and come to their realizations. I love the one-on-one. So
that's great. I like that idea that it's not a one-size-fits-all sort of approach, because I do think that people get discouraged, or first of all, they get inspired. They get inspired. Oh, this worked for so-and-so, and they just gave me all the things that I need to know about how to make a change in my life. And then they try to implement it in their life, and then it ends up like not working out the same way. And then they get discouraged, like nothing will work for me. I'm hopeless, But I think that it's important for people to learn that it's not a one size fits all sort of approach when it comes to taking care of your body and so on. So did you go to college at Cal Berkeley as well?
I did. I like to say I was born, raised, and schooled in the Bay Area.
Yeah, that's
firmly.
Awesome. That's so great. Yeah. How would you classify your role, or who you? Is it a dietitian? Is that what you would say? Or
yes, I am a registered dietitian nutritionist.
Okay, so dietitian. So what does that mean? Different from like just anybody else out there that telling you how to eat and live your life?
Yeah. So one, the term dietitian is a protected term. You have to have gone through the schooling, the 1,200 hours of supervised practice, pass our wonderful board exam, and then you can call yourself a dietitian. But the cool thing is, not only do we learn like the science and the pathophysiology of different disease states and all of that, we also learn kind of more of those soft skills. What's going to be the most effective educational strategy for a group of people, or different counseling skills. And we kind of are way more holistic and also evidence-based.
Wow.
So everything that dietitians will tell you is very likely firmly rooted in studies that have been peer reviewed, and we love our evidence. We love our review papers. So again, we're not just kind of saying, try this out, see if it works. Oh no, that didn't work. Let's try something else.
Google University, you guys.
Exactly. Yeah. We have to do a little bit more strenuous academic labor than Google, unfortunately, or fortunately.
Fortunately, yeah. Well, that's great. So you're a dietitian, and on Instagram, your handle is the Millennial Dietitian. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about that. Like, you're probably a millennial, right? So
I am.
Yeah. So it's not just you identifying yourself. Is there a strategy that you have to reach millennials through your dietitian skills? Is that what it is?
Yes, that is the hope, at least.
Okay.
So
We'll be right back with the rest of the conversation in just a moment.
Whenever I drop into Petrocelli Homes down in Niles, Jennifer Petrocelli always treats me with great respect. Jennifer and John Petrocelli have been in the housing market for a long time. They are built homes. They've helped develop homes throughout the city of Fremont, and now they are selling and buying homes for people who are trying to make Fremont their place. I don't happen to be in a place in my life where I can buy or sell a home, but John and Jennifer Petrocelli treat me like family, and I know that if they do that for me, then I know that they'll do that for you as well. So if you're in the market for buying or selling your home, then why don't you drop by Petrocelli Homes on Niles Boulevard, where you too can make your housing dream come true.
Well, Dale Hardware is such a great place for you to find the things that you need when you're working on home projects. Dale Hardware offers great customer service. It's also a great place to find advice and help, to know exactly how to use the products that you're buying, to use the tools that you're using, and to know exactly what you're doing. Make sure you're doing the things the right way. Now, back to our episode.
Is there a strategy that you have to reach millennials through your dietitian skills? Is that what it is?
Yes, that is the hope, at least.
Okay.
So just like reading through, again, papers, surveys done with this group of people, we know that millennials are actually really hands-off with their food. We like those quick meals. We like DoorDash, Uber Eats, all that fun stuff. And we're also really tired and burnt out. So it kind of makes sense that we would just want a quick, easy meal. But simultaneously, they've also found that millennials they have a lot of personal responsibility about their food choices, and they're very concerned about how the choices they're making are affecting the environment, affecting their health and wellness. So it's really interesting. Millennials are a very tired, burnt out, personally responsible group of people.
Wow.
And for me, that makes sense because I identify with that. I definitely see the interconnectedness of all of our daily choices on the greater environment.
Yeah.
And I was like, if this is something that I myself am concerned about and have been working on finding a realistic, doable way of remedying, why not try to reach this group of people? So
I love that. I love that. So how did you get into this? Like, I mean, have you like, since you were a toddler, you're just like, I just want to know how to eat properly, and like you just followed that, or how did you get into being a dietitian? When did that journey start for you, or the interest, kind of take root in your passions?
Yeah. So I wish I was a very inspired toddler like that. But I grew up vegetarian for religious reasons. My parents raised us vegetarian, but they themselves had not been vegetarian their whole lives.
Wow.
So they kind of like started this as they were having kids.
Okay.
So I remember our lunch boxes being full of Cheetos, Oreos, and Capri Sun.
Wow.
Technically, that's all vegetarian.
That's all vegetarian,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
So like not the most well-rounded, healthful way of eating. And we also lived with my grandmother who lived until her mid-90s. So she was definitely older. And of course, she got some health problems as we were growing up with her. So just from like hearing her conversations with doctors, I started realizing like, oh, the food we eat is actually making a big impact, because the doctor wasn't pushing meds. The doctor was like, go for your daily walks, make sure you're eating this type of food, not that type of food. So just kind of that secondhand learning got me interested, but I never thought I could make a career out of it. I went into Cal as like a pre-pharmacy major.
Okay. And the interest in that was just to do something with science, or?
I was like, it's a stable career. I'll do it. And then I'll use my free time to do what I actually want to do.
Go backpacking.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I remember Cal Day, which is the day you go and visit just to kind of get a sense of the campus. I sat in on a panel, and one of the speakers there was part of the nutritional sciences and dietetics major, and they were talking about the courses, career options, and I was like, that sounds way more aligned with my interests and what my beliefs are, empowering people through their food choices, because eating is something we all do, albeit in different ways, different forms, all of that, but food is something that we all need.
Yeah.
And to be able to help people like achieve wellness and feel empowered about that and recognize that, hey, this is something I can do for myself. It just got that fire in me burning. And I was like, I want to switch. So I switched majors before I even accepted my little Cal.
That's awesome. That's cool. Has it proved to be rewarding for you? Like, I mean, when you made that change, I think sometimes we make a decision based on an inspiration that we have, and we're just like, oh my goodness, I can change the world by this. And then you get into it and you're like, I had this friend in college, and she was a freshman, and we would meet up and we would chat, and she was discouraged one day, and I just said to her, I said, how's school going? It's going great. How are your classes? Oh, they're doing great, except for one class. I was like, okay, well, what class is that? Biology. I said, I'm just really, really struggling in biology. And I was like, okay. I said, what are you majoring in? She said, biology. And I said, have you considered changing your major?
Right. Oh
Because I think I asked her, do you have to take biology? Because I think you could probably take another science that maybe, could get you. What are you majoring in? Biology. I was like, I think you maybe need to consider changing your major. So I think that maybe sometimes we get inspired and then we get into it and we're like, that wasn't, was becoming a dietitian, has it proved to be rewarding for you and be everything that you kind of hoped you would be able to do with it? I mean,
apart from having to take OChem and calculus, everything else has been pretty good. And honestly, I feel really grateful and lucky that I got that sense of congruency about what I wanted to do, my channel through which to do it relatively early on. And it has been really, really awesome,
okay.
I will say.
Yeah.
Of course, ebbs and flows to the career and whatnot, but that's just part of it.
Everybody.
So you got to kind of keep your eyes on the prize and realize, okay, sometimes you just got to trudge through the less fun stuff to get to the point you want to be. And I feel like overall, I've been making good trudging progress.
That's great. So you teach as an adjunct professor at Cal Berkeley, and then you also practice within another hospital system, and then you have a private practice. So what does your private practice look like? What is that like? What are I know you said, do you like the one-on-one? And that was a big thing for you. What does that look like? And where are you connecting with people in order to be able to follow that practice?
Yeah. So before COVID, it was meeting in areas where they felt comfortable, because sometimes just coming into an office setting can be very intimidating. And I found that, hey, meeting someone at a coffee shop or even at a park, having a walking meeting, it helps loosen people up, helps them be more honest with themselves and thus with me about their goals, what's important to them. So that was pre-COVID. But since COVID, everything, of course, moved to online meetings, and that's just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
A lot of folks I'm working with continue to prefer that.
Okay.
Once in a while, they'll want to do like a little grocery store run together
Yeah.
or take a walk in the
Yeah.
park, but online has just been so convenient.
Okay.
And I do like offering appointment slots off of working hours because usually we're all more or less working 8 to 5
Yep.
and trying to find that 1 hour slot to work with your
Yeah.
dietitian, not the most convenient, and
Right.
you're not in that right headspace.
Yeah.
So being able
Yeah.
to offer those weekend or after business hour appointments also seems to work really well.
Yeah, that's great. That's really cool. Do you find that most of your, I guess, with the option of being able to meet with somebody online kind of changes it, but do you find that the majority of the people that you're meeting with are local, like here in Fremont or in the Bay Area then?
Yeah, so it seems that Greater East Bay in general has
Okay.
been my pool of folks, which works perfectly
Yeah.
because I'm familiar with the resources. I can run down to a grocery store and kind of check out what they have and be able to make
That's great.
appropriate recommendations. I love getting really hands-on and making everything like as individualized as possible.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because I think that one of the challenges that I even had for me personally, I mean, like in all honesty, I'm probably the unhealthiest that I've ever been in my life right now, which is horrible. I'm talking to a dietitian. And I'm in the process of making those changes that I need to be able to like turn that around. But, when I think about it, I think one of the challenges for people, and I would say even for me and my family, is that, we can read books, we can, kind of get a plan and stuff like that. But then when you go to implement it all, to kind of figure out what foods are the best foods and, how to be able to make all that happen, it's just a lot of work. And you can kind of seem overwhelmed, and especially when you're exhausted from a long day, you're just like, I don't have the time to kind of like go and, source all these things and like put it all together and to take the time to make it. You do want the Uber Eats or the fast food or whatever. So having someone there to kind of coach you through those decisions and help you put all that stuff together seems to be a huge advantage.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
And like, I know how overwhelming it can be, but I think a lot, like in my practice, I've noticed a lot of folks, we're really hard on ourselves. We don't give ourselves that permission to take it one step at a time. I remember this one client I had felt that, hey, I was at this point of fitness in my life just 10 years ago. I really have gotten off track and I want to be back there. I want to make sure I'm eating my 3 meals, 2 snacks, 4 to 5 handfuls of veggies every day. And she had all these big goals for her, but that in itself was so paralyzing for her, since she was like, I've done this before. Why can't I do it? And most of her mental capacity was going to asking herself, why can't I do this? Why can't I do this? Whereas if we like took a step back, took a big breath and said, I've done it before, I can do it again. Let me see how I can do it again. From this point, we can reallocate our mental resources, because those resources are super finite, as we all know.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just need someone reminding you, let's take a step back, take a big breath. Where do we feel like starting right now? What sounds achievable? Going for that low-hanging fruit instead of feeling,
I love that.
Yeah, you can't chop down the whole tree, you know?
Exactly. That's
that
great.
one branch at a time.
I can't remember where I heard the principle. I know it's probably in a book or article, probably in a lot of places. But anyway, the idea was called habit stacking. And the idea is that if there's something that you already are in the habit of doing daily, then just find other things that you can add to it. Or if you want to create a new habit, then just start with, create like the steps that it takes to get to where you want to be. So the idea was, like, for instance, to the first thing that I mentioned, like if you brush your teeth every day, which I hope everyone does, like they would say after you brush your teeth, they would do 10 push-ups, so it was like, so he knew that he was going to brush his teeth and he's already in that habit. So, what can he add to that allows him to be able to, to create that pattern of doing something healthy, And then the other thing was just like, if you're going to want to go to the gym and work out, like say an hour a day or, a couple hours a week, then, get into the habit of like putting your gym bag together and have it prepared the night before. You may not even go to the gym, but if you get in the habit of just putting the gym bag together and then, get in the habit of getting in your car and driving to the gym. And even if you can't stay, you get in the habit of going there and doing that. And then little by little start adding habits to that till you get to the point where you're like, now I'm going to the gym, half an hour every day. I'm doing, my workouts and stuff like that. So, I'm curious too. Now, we referenced the idea of backpacking, or we talked a little bit about that at the beginning, and even just the kind of like the religious patterns that you had as being a vegetarian early on. Have you found? I guess what I'm asking is, like, have you found those things to be very healthy and helpful things for people to do to consider doing? So just as I guess what I'm asking is, sometimes people. I do this. I won't say people. Sometimes I think about the idea that, changing, having a healthy lifestyle just requires a lot of like things that I just don't want to do. Like, they're not fun. They're not, delicious or, whatever. But how beneficial do you see like doing, like being a vegetarian or eating a primarily plant-based diet, or how beneficial is spending time outside and doing backpacking or something like that? How beneficial are some of these things that we write off as being not very important or not, a big deal? How beneficial do you see them as being?
Oh my gosh, I love that question. It's something that I'm like super passionate about. My background, my master's degree is in health psychology. So I'm trying to like bring together the nutrition, the mental wellness, all of that good stuff. And there is so much research out there on the effect of green space and green exposure on how we feel, our mood, levels of anxiety, depression, even our motivation and levels of burnout. Just sitting in a park or even sitting in your office, staring at the tree that's outside, even in the dead of winter when it might be barren, that has been shown to change our brain chemistry. So that in itself, like, you just have to find a park to sit at. They've even started doing some research with fake plants or looking at pictures of greenery, and they're finding similar effects. So very accessible, doable things that you can build up to. But I think that there's a huge health and wellness benefit of being out in green space.
That's awesome.
And just that feeling of like connectedness we get to the world at large that can come from being this tiny person amongst these soaring redwoods or this one little fleck in this really expansive landscape. Like, that emotion has also been shown to again impact our brain chemistry, and you might find that you enjoy that, like, as grueling and tough as it might be sometimes. The benefits, like afterwards, you might reflect and recognize, like, hey, I felt better. I actually felt more energized the rest of the week after I got out into that space. And it doesn't even have to be backpacking. Again, it can just be walking around Lake Elizabeth or walking up and down Niles. We got plenty of green space here,
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that, because I do think that sometimes people just need the permission to say, just get out there and do something. It could be as simple as walking around the block, or it could be as simple as just sitting on a bench and looking at the green spaces out there, and being able to have the permission and say what you're doing is actually beneficial. It is actually good for you.
That permission of saying, this is enough. This is what's making me happy. Because we have so many voices all around us saying you should be getting 60 minutes of exercise. You should be doing yoga and meditation. But if that's not what resonates with you, that's not going to be what sticks.
That's great. So so here I am, I've already confessed to you that I'm in probably the unhealthiest state that I've been in my life. Definitely the heaviest I've ever been. So I've got to make some changes. But if you were to help me and you were to say, give me three things, if I were to say, give me three things that I could do, or I could set as goals for myself to kind of start making some of those changes. So as a dietitian, putting you on the spot right now, as a dietitian, like, what are some of the things that you might recommend to me?
Okay. So if you were my client, we were doing a one-on-one session, this is what I tell all my clients just starting off. And they're always kind of like blown away, where they're like, wait, that has nothing to actually do with the food I'm eating or how much I'm pushing myself on the treadmill. So one, I always say, reflect. Think about what felt good in the past year or so, where you wanted to spend your energy, where you wanted to kind of make sure you got the time to do something that made you feel good. Reflect about that. Because that in itself is going to give you a great starting point about where you're actually going to eat differently, exercise differently, or even, again, take care of your mental health differently.
That's great.
Invest more in where it feels good.
Yeah.
And then 2, I always like to say, think about why you're doing something. Because again, lots of people will sign up for the gym, sign up for HelloFresh, all of that. But after a month or so, they might fall off. You want to think about that bigger goal. Yes, you're going to the gym to get healthier and everything, but also think about the little things that will help you stay motivated over the next couple weeks and whatnot, where you might say, okay, I want to make sure that I hit this certain miles per hour when I'm running on the treadmill, or I want to eat healthy and learn to enjoy asparagus in a way that tastes good to me. So little goals like that. I think backpacking is a great example of this because, like, for me, I know that once I got into backpacking, it definitely helped me change my health goals, where I was working out differently, eating differently. And my goal was like, I want to make backpacking more enjoyable for myself. Yes, it's enjoyable, but I would love to get uphill without much.
Without dying.
Yes. I want to be able to feel like strong and confident. So that helped me adjust my goals and see things differently. So even if it's deciding like, hey, I want to try out this new sport and feel good about it, maybe I should start working out and just getting conditioned before I try it so I can enjoy it more. So kind of setting up the pieces.
Yeah.
And then the third thing kind of leans into that, where it's building your environment to succeed. You want to have all those foundational pieces in place, because if you are trying to work out, but like your gym clothes are everywhere, or you don't enjoy the gym you're at, or you find that I'm not a gym person, I would rather work out at home. Recognizing that can help you create like that better environment for yourself, where you can get your gym clothes together, or you can sign up for an online program, or just scroll through the thousands of free YouTube videos and find something that does feel good to you as a starting point. Because once you have those foundational pieces in place.
Yeah, and I think that to your point, those are great, by the way. Those are really helpful to kind of like process and to think about ways to implement them into like my life. I think too, just feeling not freeing yourself of the guilt that you have when you see somebody else being successful at what they're doing and you're not, and you know, again, kind of going back to what we were talking about, not at one shoe doesn't fit everyone, or you know that the idea that this worked for that person, why is it not working for me, or I can't have the same success that they have. Freeing yourself of the guilt of that and saying I don't need to feel like a failure if something that worked for somebody else doesn't work for me. But finding what does work for you and starting with those small wins, I think is really, really great. Those are great helps.
I'm glad you think so. But I think that point you've made of not feeling guilty, because again, we're so hard on ourselves, and sometimes we need that external coach to kind of remind us like, okay, we're getting in our head now, let's take a step back. That can be really helpful. But then also recognizing like, hey, that person is doing well, but they've probably been working on it for a long time, and we never really see that process or that part of it. Like people are like, oh, they didn't just wake up and hike up to Mount Whitney, you know. They probably worked on it for a while.
That's right. That is right. I think too, like thinking through backpacking too, you know, I was thinking about, as you were talking, I was trying to think there's things that we could implement in our lives that are beneficial to help it. Like so I'm gonna use backpacking as kind of like a metaphor here. Okay. So there are certain things that I would tell people when I was coaching them to get ready for a backpacking trip. There's certain things that matter more than other things, you know. So like, for instance, I would tell people having a good sleep system is a very important part of having a good backpacking trip or backpacking experience, because if you think about it, you know, if you have a good night's sleep, let's say you have a good night's sleep, you sleep 8 hours. Well, that's 8 hours that of your 24-hour day of your backpacking experience that your body is trying to get the rest and the strength and, you know, the recovery that it needs to be able to enjoy the other 16 hours of the day. Well, so you need to take care of your body during that 8 hours. So being able to have a comfortable bed to sleep on, stay warm, that sort of thing is very, very important. So I would encourage people, you know, don't worry about investing too much in your tent. You know, don't overspend on your tent and underspend on your sleep system. Focus on your sleep system and then your tent, you can get away with, $100 tent or whatever. And that way, and the tent will come if you enjoy it, you want to get something better down the road, then you can. But the sleep system, the other thing I would say is like your boots, the shoes that you wear, take care of your feet. That's your vehicle. It's like if you if your job is to deliver things in your car and you don't take care of your car, you don't change the oil, you don't do all, then, and you're not taking care of your car, then eventually you're gonna have problems and you're not gonna be able to do your job. So if your feet are your vehicle to get you where you need to go when you're backpacking, then get the right shoes. Make sure you spend the money that you need to get the boots or the shoes that fit you properly. So take care of your body. But there are also some things that I would encourage people, you don't need this. And I think that sometimes people feel like they need certain things in order to be able to have a certain experience. But sometimes we need to learn to let go of certain things that we've held on to for such a long time. I had one experience, this was kind of crazy, but it's interesting. The person that I'm talking about, that I'm going to use in this example, just recently received her PhD from Harvard.
Nice.
I think as a doctor, but it was not that. Yeah, exactly. Not
Wow.
But when she was a teenager, I led a canoeing backpacking trip in Canada, and she was a teenager in this group that I was leading. And she had never been outdoors. She had never been backpacking. She'd never been camping. She'd grown up in the city and been in the city her whole life. And she insisted on bringing her hairdryer. And I kept telling her, you're not going to need it. You don't want to take it with you. It's just going to be extra weight. There's not electricity. But apparently in her mind, she just assumed, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So she literally packed her hairdryer in her backpack. And so here we are in the middle of nowhere. Like there's not electricity, like conveniences for miles around. And she, literally broke down crying the first night. She's like, I did not expect this. This is not what I was anticipating. But she brought this hairdryer that she ended up having to carry the entire trip, and the good news of that story is that about halfway through, it just completely changed her life. And she was just so excited that she was there. And she was, she went from being devastated and just hating being there the first night to 3 or 4 nights into it, just being like, this was awesome. I'm so glad we did this experience and that sort of thing. But my point of that story is that, she did not need the hairdryer as much as she insisted that she thought she would need it. She did not need her hairdryer.
Right.
And there are just some things that we just have to let go of. Would you say that there's something that you have experienced in your practice that you would say people kind of think this is something I can't I can't live without, and I have to have it, and they just insist on keeping it, or they're, but it is something that, for instance, I could say, you can let go of this, you don't need this, and this would be a big benefit to you. Is there anything like that?
Oh my gosh, I feel like this is so individualized, but I think the biggest thing that I've noticed, because I am a plant-based proponent, there are just so many benefits of it, and usually when I bring up the idea of plant-based eating to some folks, they get very defensive, and they're like, I need my meat. I am not becoming one of those vegans. And for those folks, I'm like, okay, let's leave it for now. When you're ready to hear about it, we can talk more about it, and kind of letting people come to it on their own and realizing for themselves whether or not they need that hair dryer.
Right. That's really great. I had a similar experience, and I don't want to be telling all my stories, but I had a friend who was a vegetarian, and she was just telling me how much, this was years ago, she was telling me how much it impacted her. And she was encouraging me, you should try it. And I was like, no, I like my meat and, whatever. So she's like, just take 1 month and try it and see if it affects you, So I did. I took her up on it, and I went a whole month without eating meat, and my body felt so great. I felt really, really great. Now, I do enjoy my meat. I still enjoy my meat, but what it did is it taught me in that moment that there is implications, and there are things that result in the way I feel based on my choices of even if it's just cutting, what it did is actually it caused me to cut back on the amount of meat that I had, as opposed to just being like, I need to have meat in every meal. It was like, no, I need to realize that meat is something that it's something that I can enjoy, but I need to make sure that I understand that there are health implications to me as to how much I, take. And, I don't know, maybe down the road, maybe, I'll give it up altogether. But at this point, like being able to have that experience and that prodding from my friend to consider that was a big thing.
And
so
it's those little steps, right? Because a lot of the times I'm like, okay, we're not going to give up the meat. Let's just make space on our plate for some plant protein.
That's good.
And that might mean a little less of the meat. But even with that, you learn to savor it a bit more. And that act of savoring the foods we're eating, that mindful eating aspect, that in itself, again, has been shown to have so many beneficial impacts. And I'm like, I can definitely link you to the studies, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But being aware of the food we're eating, the texture, the flavor, and truly enjoying it, plant-based eating can definitely help with that. But again, it's just that idea of, no, I need this and I can't imagine my life without it. But sometimes just chipping away at the iceberg, you never know when it's going to resonate with someone and when they're going to feel ready to try it, whether it's for one day of the week or for a whole month continuously, just to see what happens. Like, just got to keep nudging, I say.
That's awesome. So if people wanted to like learn more about this, maybe they're not ready to jump in and have like a dietitian as a coach or anything, but they wanted to maybe look at some of the resources that are available to them. Do you have a place that they can go and find these things?
So the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics webpage, I really honestly love them as a starting point because they've taken a lot of the recent research and made it really digestible. Pun intended. And just like easy to understand and learn about. And sometimes I feel like that's what you need, a nice, simple overview. And then you can pick and choose what sounds interesting to you and then dive in there. And the Academy also has a bunch of links out to more resources and learning. But the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, super credible, evidence-based, really good place to start.
Awesome. And then if people wanted to follow you or get a hold of you, how would they do that?
I would be so flattered. They can follow me at _millennial_dietitian on Instagram. Nice. And dietitian is spelled with 2 T's. So DITITIAN. A lot of folks get that mixed up. So awesome. That's my main
that's
place for
the main place to connect with you. Awesome. So we're gonna wrap it up here, but so you grew up in Fremont. Do you have any favorite places, things that you love to do around here?
Well, walking around Lake Elizabeth is like a family tradition. When we were little, we would do it like once a week, every Sunday. So that's forever a favorite. And then Mission Peak, I hike that with my friends. My family, they're like, you can't make me do that every single year. But that's definitely a New Year's tradition. Great. Of course, Devout is
coffee,
the place. I remember when it was just like a hallway they had first opened up. So
that's cool.
I would say those are my top 3 places. But lots happening, lots of new stuff coming. So
many great things that are happening. That's awesome. Well, Karen, thank you so much for being on the podcast, and thank you for just everything that you're doing for the community in this way. I really hope that as you continue to follow your practice and do the things that you're doing, that it really makes a difference in our community, and it makes a difference in the people's lives that are close to you. That's really cool.
Thank you so much. It has been, again, an honor to be here and chatting with you. I mean, give me any excuse to chat with you, and I'm ready.
There you go. Well, thank you so much, and we'll do it again soon for sure.
Awesome.
This episode was hosted and produced by Ricky B. I'm Gary Williams. Andrew Cavett is the editor. Music is provided through soundstripe.com. You can find links to our social media and other content at thefremontpodcast.com. Be sure to subscribe wherever it is that you listen so you don't miss an episode. And if you're so inclined, leave a kind review so that others can find the podcast. Join us next week on the Fremont Podcast.
Yeah, so the term dietitian is a protected term. You have to have gone through the schooling, the 1,200 hours of supervised practice, pass our wonderful board exam, and then you can call yourself a dietitian. Everything that dietitians will tell you is very likely firmly rooted in studies that have been peer reviewed, and we love our evidence. We love our review papers. So again, we're not just kind of saying, try this out, see if it works. Oh no, that didn't work. Let's try something else.
Google University, you guys.
Exactly. Yeah, we have to do a little bit more strenuous academic labor than Google, unfortunately, or fortunately.
Fortunately, yeah.
This is Muggins Media.